Welcome back to Wide Open, everyone. I'm Ashlyn Harris, and today's guest is someone whose work sits at the incredible intersection of art, philosophy, storytelling, and culture. Abigail Thorn is an actor, writer, creator, and one of the most thoughtful voices on the internet right now. Millions of people know her from Philosophy Tube, where she somehow makes ideas that can feel intimidating become deeply human. She also starred in House of the Dragon, written award-winning theater, and has become one of the most important voices pushing conversations around identity, freedom, and what it actually means to live authentically. But what I love about Abigail is that she doesn't just ask big questions. She invites people to sit in the discomfort of them. So today, we're talking about performance, philosophy, creativity, womanhood, joy, and what happens when you stop living the role everyone else wrote for you and start living your truth. Abigail, welcome to Wide Open. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wide Open. I'm your host, Ashlyn Harris, and today I'm so excited to introduce Abigail. Abigail, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And you just told me you're no longer in London. You're here in the U.S. So welcome to the madness, honey.
Thank you so much. It's honestly it's a delight. I'm going to be here for a little while and then hopefully long term as well.
Well, I wanna kick things off, and really talk about who you were before you started performing and before you started your YouTube channel. But I'm curious, did you always feel that you wanted to be a performer as a child? Like, walk me through who Abigail was as, the early years before, all of the fame and YouTube and millions of people consuming your content. You don't have to be humble about it. We all deeply know and adore you. And I'm just curious, like, what was life like before?
Oh, you're very sweet. Well, I've been acting since I was a child. I did school plays and amateur stuff, and I knew in high school that I wanted to go to drama school and be a professional actress. In the UK, you pretty much have to go and be classically trained at a British drama school in order to enter the industry. I knew I wanted to do that. Yeah, that's a big
I
difference that I've
did not
discovered
know
since
that.
I've discovered that since I came to the US, is that people want me to mention, and my reps want me to mention that I've in industry conversations that I've been classically trained, because that's not something that everyone has to do.
No, not at
whereas
all.
in the UK, you pretty much have to if you want to enter the industry. So I knew I wanted to, but I come from a very academic family, and it was strongly encouraged that I should go and get a degree at university first. So I went and got a philosophy degree, and started my YouTube channel, Philosophy Tube, at the same time. And I just did as much acting as I could whilst I was there. I mean, as a teenager, I started out doing Shakespeare, and Tom Stoppard, and classic works like that. And then at university, I did as much acting as I could on the side, and then auditioned for drama school, and eventually got in. And then it was acting professionally. So when I was a child, I loved it as an amateur, and now I love it as a professional. And the difference between those two things is something that was taught to me at drama school. Amateur, the word amateur comes from the Latin amo, meaning I love. And the way it was explained to me is that an amateur is somebody who does the job because she loves it. And when she doesn't love it anymore, she won't do the job.
Wow.
Whereas professional comes from, I think the verb is professore, meaning I vow. If you make a vow to do something, you vow to do it, even if you're not enjoying it. You do it because you've made that promise. And so at drama school, I learned why I wanted to dedicate my life to the art form of acting, really. So that's been the journey I've been on from amateur to professional.
Wow,
I still love it, but
I have never heard that, and it's deeply moving. I actually love that.
Gosh,
that's a really great way to put it, as someone who was an amateur soccer player and then became a professional soccer player. Two very, very different things. but I
Yes,
love
yeah,
the
well,
way
you
you frame
understand.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
What
thank
do you
you.
think acting gave you that real life couldn't?
Oh, what a great question. Well, so the reason I felt, I guess, called to dedicate my life to it is that I that's one of the things they asked me on the first day is how dare you be an actor? How dare you do it? And we had to justify it really. And what I eventually kind of came up with is that when we look around, there's an awful lot of problems in the world. And when you read philosophy as I have, you realize that we've been grappling with many of the same problems for thousands of years. I mean, some of the people you've had on your podcast have highlighted problems of sexual violence in particular. Like I was very moved by your interview with the founder of Me Too. But that's not the only problem that we repeat again and again. And there are many people in the world who feel that they or we as a society are stuck and that we cannot
Mm,
change. And so I ask myself, well, what is it that actors do? We change. We
mm-hmm.
give ourselves a new character trait, a new accent, a new way of moving or being. Admittedly, some of us change more than others, but we show that people can change, and that's a
Yeah.
almost a sacred thing that actors are given as a gift is to show the world that people can change, and what a beautiful, special thing that can be. And so that's why I decided, well, there's the kind of my answer to how dare you be an actor.
Yes. Yes.
It's I don't really care about sort of fame or money or attention, but I care about the principle that human beings can change and the importance of making art that illustrates that.
I'm I'm so deeply I just first off I'd love to talk to you all day because I just want to pick your brain. It's so clear how educated and smart you are, which I admire. But the whole philosophy thing behind it, I as well went to university, definitely didn't dive into philosophy as a major, but definitely took quite a lot of classes because it really makes
Mm.
you critically think deep. And I think there's something so beautiful about that. But I'm curious if philosophy made life feel bigger or did it make more sense to you? Because you really gravitate towards the way you act things out and philosophy too. It just shows your curiosity and your creativity is very different than most people. And I really believe, and I'm not going to speak for you, that stems from the understanding of philosophy and how people work and how our history of our ancestors and all the things before us, how we connect the dots. So yeah, back to my question was just, do you feel like, does philosophy make life feel bigger or does it make more sense?
Well, that's such an interesting way of phrasing it. I suppose one thing that studying philosophy has taught me is compassion, which might sound unusual for a very intellectual pursuit, but my philosophy teacher as a high schooler, a man named Howard Baker, he was a very compassionate man.
Mm,
I'll never forget. We did two philosophy exams, and one of the results came back as we expected, very positive, and the other, my result came back rather lower than we expected. And he asked me, did it seem like anything was different in the exam? And I said, no, sir. It seemed reasonable. I was confident in my answers. This isn't the result we expected, but I'm surprised. And he
hmm
said, all right, leave it with me. And on the strength of my say so as a 17-year-old child, he went away and he fought to have the papers for the whole class remarked. And it turned out there'd been a problem with that marker applying the syllabus wrongly, and the entire class got our grades moved up 2 levels. Because off the strength of my say so as a child, Mr. Baker believed me. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think this is the right thing to do, sir." And it turned out we were right. And so
Wow.
he taught me the value of listening to people and of compassion. And the wonderful thing about reading philosophy, even very ancient philosophy, I mean, I remember reading Plato at university and realizing here's a man writing 2,000 years ago in another language,
hmm
living a life that I couldn't possibly imagine, and yet I understand the things that he's saying. And it was such a beautiful experience. It reminded me of a quote from a play called The History Boys by Alan Bennett, where the teacher Hector says that one of the beautiful things about reading is that you come across a way of thinking or feeling that you thought was unique to you, and you find that someone else has had it before. And it's like
Wow.
a hand has reached out from the page and taken yours. And so I learned the value of compassion really through philosophy and trying to understand how other people think.
It's beautiful. And it's deeply, I imagine, personal to you, because what I love so much about what you've done is you've made philosophy so approachable. I think that's a unique thing to do, because sometimes it is like a heavy lift. There's a lot
Hmm.
there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's often
Deeply.
so like, well, what is it? Pale, male, and stale. It's there's so much of philosophy that's like, I mean, that stuff's good. Like, your Immanuel Kant and your David Hume and so on. But the way that it's taught is often so as if it's not for you, not for the hoi polloi, it's for the academic ivory tower. And so part of what I tried to do with philosophy too was ask myself, well, why shouldn't a mum in the Midwest or a teenager in Zambia or somebody have an opinion about Schopenhauer or Shakespeare or
Mhm.
Nabokov or any of these great figures that are part of the common intellectual history of humanity? They're for
Mhm.
everyone, really.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I tried to do with it.
And it's beautiful that you created this theatrical philosophy. And it's very different, and it's easy to digest when you understand it and you see it in this type of tone, which most people haven't before, which I do find is a gift. I think your ability to stay creative and curious probably made such a major impact. What was it that made you decide philosophy needs to be approachable and it can be theatrical, and I could use my craft and my gift to present to other people to make it easily understood?
Mm.
And it's that beautiful, like, you become a teacher as a storyteller, that it's uniquely digested by your viewers, which I think is pretty incredible. And I'm just curious, what made you decide to do, like, it's not like a thing that you see. What I find in social media, it's repetitive. It's a
Hmm.
repetitive culture that people just take something from someone else and then you repeat it. Like, if I see another person sit down in a chair like this and pretend to do a Netflix documentary or something, I'm like, can someone just be original?
Oh
Someone.
God, you're so right. You're so right. Yeah, yeah,
If
you're so
I
right.
see one more person doing a TikTok dance that has been done 150
Hmm.
million fucking times, I'm just going to be like, you guys, the whole point of this is creating new ideas and being, this is like fun and inventive
Hmm.
and informative. And I think you checked all those boxes, but there had to be a reason why, because no one did this and no one was doing it. So what was that passion? What was the passion behind doing theatrical philosophy on, YouTube, and really using your talent in very unique ways?
Well, I graduated drama school. I had up until that point been doing pretty dry philosophy explainer videos where I would sit down in front of a bookcase and say, "This is what this philosopher says."
Uh-huh.
But I graduated drama school and I wanted to put more of my craft into the videos for my own entertainment, really. I wasn't actually the first person to do that sort of thing. Natalie Wynn,
Mhm.
another YouTube creator who I'm not sure whether she's still making videos or not, but she was one of the first to like bring in elements of what you might call production design to her video essays. And I've spoken before about having been inspired by her work and the work of people like Lindsay Ellis, who was one of the early kind of pioneers of the video essay as we now know it. Um, and so I was inspired by them, and I had these creative resources, and it felt like it tied into that broader mission of making things accessible to people. As I was like, well, I'm explaining Immanuel Kant or David Hume, but why shouldn't there also be Rilke or Shakespeare? Why shouldn't I bring in artists and give that to people as well? Because those things are also often held as for the academic ivory
Yeah.
tower, especially Shakespeare, which my play, The Prince, which I also wrote, is all about bringing Shakespeare to everybody.
Yeah.
So it sort of fit with that message of saying, because I grew up I come from a particular background, which is a British euphemism for saying I'm quite posh. I was lucky. I received a very good education. I went to a good university and a good school and so on. But I had friends who couldn't afford to do that kind of thing, especially once the government tripled tuition fees. And so
Mm,
I want everyone should have the benefits of these things.
correct.
Education, and not just education, but art and beauty are for everyone. And so I suppose it fit with that broader mission of bringing the things I've been very fortunate to enjoy to as many people as possible.
Wow. Yeah, and I think it just stems from accessibility. I think we're getting so far out of reach right now for
Mm-hmm.
anyone to enjoy anything. I think access is fundamental. It just shouldn't even be a question, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about healthcare and education.
Of course, of course.
It's a non-negotiable. But I live in America, and those things, it's a privilege, just like you said. Stay tuned. I'll be back in just a moment after this brief message from our sponsors. But this life and what you've created led you to some pretty incredible things. I know you got to be in House of the Dragon, which makes me excited because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I'm like,
Oh,
come on, like
oh
this is a
gosh.
big deal, right? Like I imagine
Yeah.
getting that phone call was like, wow, like this is a really,
Yeah.
really major moment. And
It
not
was.
yeah, and not only that, you went through a huge physical transformation.
Yes, yes, I did. So,
And yeah,
yeah,
tell me about this. And
I
and I really want to know truthfully because I want to know how that changed your relationship with your body.
I'm so
That's the
grateful for
q-
that question.
that's the question deeply. Like I know you're so proud to be on a show like that, but for a woman who's fought so hard to feel comfortable in their body, I want to ask the real questions and I want to check in. And I was just curious of what did that change? I know, and I'm excited for you to share that you gained over 20 pounds of muscle for that role.
Yeah, I
Wow.
sure did. Yeah, yeah,
That's
I did.
that is no small feat here. Okay.
Oh,
People,
thank
trust me, as
you.
an athlete, putting on 22 pounds of
Yeah,
muscle
yeah,
takes a
there it
ton of
is.
dedication, a
It did.
ton of work. I mean, you look
It was good
incredible.
fun. Thank you.
But I also
It was
think
good
people
fun.
don't realize, yeah, the toll it takes on your body, especially people, like us and the queer community
Hmm.
who fight so hard for that inner peace a little bit and
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
listening to who we are and how we want to show up in the world without the noise of everyone else's expectations that we didn't ask for. So yes, please tell me about the process of gaining that type of weight for the role, but also did it change your relationship with your body afterwards or during?
Yeah, it really did. So, I got the role in House of the Dragon in part because I wrote a play a few years ago called The Prince that had a lot of sword fighting and action in it, and I was put up for House of the Dragon off the back of that, and the casting director saw that I could fight, and so they wanted a woman who was over 6 feet tall who could fight to play Sharako the pirate,
Hmm.
and I went in there and I did my best, and in season 2 they gave me a little bit of action, and then I said I'd love to do some more because I've wanted to do action for years. And I can, because I came up doing Shakespeare, like I can ride horses and I was also an
Hmm.
army cadet for 5 years. So I can shoot,
Wow.
I can sword fight, and I'm pretty athletic generally. Um, and then in season 3, they said, okay, we're going to have the biggest naval battle ever filmed. We're going to have the biggest episode of TV ever filmed. And you're going to be right in the thick of this battle, and we're going to train you up. So we did boxing and sword fighting, and as I say, I put on all this muscle, which was my decision. They never told me to do that. I decided that I wanted the character to be someone who was very very physically strong, and I'm so grateful that you asked me how that made me feel because you're the first person who has.
Oh, wow.
It's really nice because as a woman who is very tall and broad, and also as a woman who happens to be trans, my relationship with my body has not always been well, I've often worried how other people would perceive it.
Yeah.
In particular, something that people often say about trans women, we're often painted as being a danger. And so there is a temptation, strong temptation for many of us to shrink ourselves, to starve ourselves often, and to be afraid of taking up space. And I've dealt with that sometimes. It's sometimes difficult being tall and broad. And it was so nice to get that muscle and get that strength, and for that to be okay, and to play a character who she's cisgender, but who relishes that about her body, and it did help me love my body more. I remember after sort of 3 weeks of very intense fighting, I checked in on how I was feeling, and I was like, well, this has been super intense, getting up at 4 a.m. 6 times a week and fighting stuntmen all day, but I could keep going. I'm ready. And I realized the strength in my body, not just physical strength of being able to lift things, but also just it was there for me. It was there for me when I needed it to be. And I had this moment of realizing, wow, I kind of have a bit of a superhero body. And it keeps going. It didn't let me down. And I grew to love it more because of that. And that's partly why I decided to keep the muscle too.
It's amazing.
It puts me in a fun casting as well. There's not a lot of female action stars, certainly not a lot of trans femme ones. And so it's been really nice, actually.
I love
I love
that.
it. I love when I
love
get
that.
in a taxi with a suitcase and then I lift my suitcase in and the driver tries to help me. He's like, "Oh God, you are strong." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, you know, it's nice. It's really,
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
And you've worked hard for it, and you deserve freaking putting those
Yeah.
arms out. Everyone wants a
Yeah.
nice little definition in the arm, so I
Yeah,
can
it's good.
appreciate that.
It's good. And it's also really funny, especially like right now in Hollywood when everyone's on Ozempic. Like
Oh my
every woman I
gosh.
know, and a lot of the men I know are on Ozempic, and I'm on creatine. It's just
Oh, me too. I'm on
Yes,
like
yeah.
double
It's
the
so good,
amount
isn't
of
it?
creatine. Oh my God, I have to
Oh
take
yeah.
creatine every single
Yeah.
day. And
I
it's
sleep better on it. It's
oh my
great.
everything. Mental health, like my
Yeah.
mental fog. It's so good for your brain. It's so good for your body. I think we're sold so much BS, and that's one of them. I'm like, no, everyone, listen, take creatine. It's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't starve yourself either.
We're trying to go real far backwards in the frail department here. I'm like, listen, if someone's chasing me, I'm gonna run really fast and I'm gonna fuck some shit up. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to keep that power and that muscle because I'm not gonna, I've dropped since I've played. I'm working out a ton too, and I'm on this whole body transformation. I just love to test my body. I think
Yes.
it is such a powerful thing to do, and building discipline and habits is so good for my mental well-being, and every day my kids are like, "Show me your muscles." And I just
Yes.
I find it so fun and enjoyable to push my body to things that I didn't think were possible. And I think that
Yeah.
is the human experience in general. It just, I imagine it's so good for my brain. And I'm glad that you agree with that, because it is so important for us.
And for us as women to put our bodies to use for our own purposes. I look at, and I certainly would never knock anyone else's body choices. What I mean is I have friends who are models and who are actresses who strive very hard for a particular aesthetic of thinness and runway modelness. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I understand that's also the pressures of the job. But it seems that the dominant aesthetic that we are so often expected to embody in the entertainment industry is girlishness, is this, it's not just youthfulness, it's a passivity, it's a thinness and a girlishness that makes someone easily consumable, easily controllable, and easily possessed. And I certainly don't mean to knock anyone else's body choices or criticize anyone in particular. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I enjoy for myself not, and deliberately not, embodying that aesthetic. I enjoy flexing my muscles on a red carpet and projecting an image of
Oh, I love this.
strength of
Strength.
strength and
Correct.
power. That's why at the House of the Dragon premiere, I chose to go in a red carpet outfit that was inspired by absolute Wonder Woman and to have that bicep flex moment because I wanted to deliberately resist that
Yep.
that girlish aesthetic. I did not want to be an object that had been possessed by somebody else, but for my body to be an instrument for my own purposes.
Which is what I love so much about how you show up in the world in general. And I think that's what people really gravitate towards because so much of your work isn't just entertainment. It's really asking people to rethink the systems they live in. And that to me, it's like the topics you decide to explore and critique are the gender norms, capitalism, healthcare, you name it. But I am curious what you think is most urgent right now to challenge.
Ooh, that's a really, really good question. I don't think there's a universal answer to that. I I have learned over the last few years that the things that I say in public can very easily become headlines, and that the things I say can very easily shape how other people think about important issues. And so I try now to stick to my lane. The thing that I understand and can speak authoritatively on when it comes to a social issue is the NHS and healthcare, in particular healthcare for trans people in England. Of course, I have opinions on other topics, and I will donate my time and my money and my energy quietly behind the scenes to many things as a private individual. But publicly, the topic that I can speak on most authoritatively is that. And so that's where I tend to direct my energy because I'm a survivor of the NHS's trans healthcare pathway, and I can speak on that. But yeah, I have found that I'm very wary of taking up space in other people's areas of specialty.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I focus on. But
Yeah.
that's not to say that it is the most urgent.
And it is urgent, you know. I as a speaking of, I have my trans t-shirt on right now. I'm a huge sports saved my life. Just as I imagine theater gave you a safe space. And I find it really important to speak on the importance of letting everyone play. And I know in our country here, and as you're new to it, which you're not new to the hate, is we don't want the not we because I am not a part of that we, but this administration does not want trans people in sports, youth sports, and I can't fathom, like, it's a deeply rooted issue for me because I know the impact it had on me. I would have been a statistic. I was doing drugs in 6th grade. I needed an outlet. I needed a safe space, and that is what sport gave me. And how dare us take that away from a child who knows more about who they are than most adults who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s making these fucking policies. That's what I have a problem with. And you're right. Does it directly impact me? No, but it does directly impact my community, and my community is my family, so it deeply impacts me. So I know here as a woman who came from the South, you know, we're having a hard time getting gender affirming care to a lot of these states who have absolutely yanked, banned, and won't allow it. And it is, I don't know, because I know you're clearly way more educated on the topic than me, but where do we need to see more meaningful progress? Because the problem in my head is culture moves faster than policy. Policy moves so fucking slow. And the problem is when we have wankers in the White House, now we have to wait 4 years, but we got to wait a lot longer than that because now we have to unwind all of the tragic things that they've created for us for probably a decade. So it's just like, where can we make meaningful progress or change so people can access, you know, gender affirming care, that it doesn't make it impossible.
Yeah, coming from the UK context, there are answers to that, but answers that maybe shouldn't be said on public theatre.
Yeah.
So there are ways and means of survival, and There
But
are levels of survival we
yeah,
are willing to accept.
exactly. But you living your truth too is so important for the community to see what is possible, because it is a matter of like, why not me? Like, look what life has given you. And it hasn't been easy and it hasn't been handed, but there are better things on the other side, and you're living proof of that. And what I love so much, because I don't want to put you in a place where you feel like someone's going to jump for a tagline, but I do love you've made an important distinction between trans representation and trans liberation. And I thought that was really beautiful. And I never thought of it that way. You're like, no, no, no. I'm looking for trans liberation, not representation. So I'm just curious what you mean by that. And what does that actually look like?
I have noticed in the last few years that representation, not just of trans and queer people, but of everyone, is sometimes held up as the be all and end all. And I mean, you can have a black man in the White House, you can have black people on TV, and at the same time, you can have police violence against black people. You can have a trans person on Broadway, you can have a trans person in the biggest TV show in the world, as I was. And you can have just like an internal refugee crisis in the United States of trans people having to move out of their homes. You can have conversion therapy on the NHS, as we do in the UK. These things are not contradictory. In fact, sometimes the representation is jangling keys, and I am quite apart from what it does to the people who are held up as quote unquote representatives. What a career killer that is. And so I didn't want to be a part of that. I guess I just don't believe in a theory of change. I don't believe that somebody who supports policies that don't see us as human beings is gonna watch an episode of House of the Dragon and then go, oh, guess I'll rethink my whole life. It's like, no, they're not gonna do that. That's not gonna change. And to be quite honest, if I walk into a doctor's office and then I walk out again and my doctor turns to a nurse and says, God, that bloke is mental, I don't give a damn as long as he gives me my goddamn medicine. I don't care what people say or think. I care who has power and whether I have power over my life. If representation is a tool to get me that, then fantastic. But if it's not, then I don't really care either way. It's not what led me into dedicating my life to being an actress. I didn't do that out of a sense of duty to the community. I've always been acting ever since I was a child, and so it wasn't something that motivated me then. But I suppose I want people to have power over their own lives. The demographics of who appears in an entertainment product are interesting and to a degree important, but they're a means to an end.
Wow, it's so powerful. And it makes me think about, especially when you say it that way about, a doctor and walking into a doctor's office. I get how visibility can open a door. However, I also get how it doesn't always change the system behind the door.
Exactly.
It's two very, very different two very different scenarios that most people don't get besides our community.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. Stay tuned. I'll be back in just a moment after this brief message from our sponsors. I imagine you've built an audience that expects so much depth based on what you've been able to create and the following you've been able to create. Does that feel like pressure to you? Do you ever feel that sense of okay, now I have to be the one that's representing this whole community? Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of and I feel it when I see, a dear sweet friend of mine, Dylan Mulvaney, here. Like, it happens so often to her. And
she's a sweetheart.
She's the most incredible human I've ever met in my life. And it's still to this day. Our president makes a speech a few days ago and can't take her name out of his fucking mouth.
I
And
really
it's
felt for
just,
her. That must have been a
yeah.
surreal moment for her.
But
She's wonderful as Dylan. We've spent some time together. And she's one of these people who is so unbelievably talented and who doesn't even
yes.
have the decency to be an asshole about it because she's
No.
also lovely. And it's like,
Yes.
oh, you really do have it all, don't you? No, she's
But
fantastically talented.
it's do you ever feel that pressure of like, the expectation now that everyone has because of the visibility you've had? How do you carry that?
Well, most of the time I carry it by not talking about trans stuff in public. I carry it with the help of a very good publicist.
Yeah, that part.
So it's that, and it's partly sticking to my lane and
Mm-hmm.
and talking about mainly focusing on healthcare stuff and trusting other people in the community to hold up their end of it, and partly it's I mean I just kind of don't really think about it all that much. I don't see myself as a representative of the community. Sometimes it's a kind of I have to put on the tiara and be the people's princess, but it's kind of my turn to do that today, and then you hand it to someone else, right? But no, most of the time I keep my head down and I focus on my work and I try and
How
do
do
the
you
best I
protect
can.
how do you protect your peace like that? I'm phoning a friend. This is me being like, I need to phone a friend because I am one of those people that justice, like the right to just exist and live free of all of this, it like keeps me up at night. And I wish I could protect my peace a little more and stay in my lane a little more. It's like it is a daunting thing to think about all the time. And I do, because we see it all the time in mainstream media now, that our like community is getting attacked every chance these people can. So I respect your ability to feel so secure and feel so confident and stay in your lane and protect the boundaries that you've placed, because I imagine it's taken a lot from you. I've experienced it firsthand, and it's like, whoa, you're scared to say something too much. You're scared to not say enough. It's a tough lane to live in, and I applaud your ability to do it so peacefully, truthfully, because God, it makes me fucking crazy if you can't tell.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I go to the gym, I listen to
Yes.
music, take my
Yes.
creatine, and
Yes.
I have friends that I'll vent to. But no, I mean, the other part of it is I'm an English woman from a particular background, and being a kind of invincible living statue, is kind of what I was raised to do.
Yeah.
Is that I was not raised to show vulnerability, and so you just kind of get on with it, really.
Yeah, but what's bringing you joy? Let us in. Give us some tea, honey. What's bringing you joy these days?
What's bringing me joy is good art, spending time with friends, good food, good coffee, and also just my creative pursuits. I enjoy the work that I do. I enjoy the auditions I've been taking and the things I've been working on. I enjoy I have a feature in development that I've been writing, and that's out for
amazing.
financing. I enjoy that. Yeah, it's really
It's
fun. We've got
amazing.
an amazing director attached. I'm going to be doing some work with Lily Wachowski soon, which is fabulous. My play that I wrote a few years ago that I mentioned a while back is going to get a rehearsed reading at Dynasty Typewriter on the 31st of July, and that's got such amazing cast in
It's
it.
amazing news.
Yeah. Like it's like Vivian Wilson is going to be in it. It's her acting debut.
Wow.
And she's fantastic. She's a fantastic actress. And Nicole Maines from Supergirl is in it, and my friend Morgana Ignis is going to be in it. So I enjoy the creative work that I do. That's what gives me joy. And just the sunshine. It's so nice living in a country where the sun shines.
Oh my
isn't
gosh. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Somebody said to me a while ago, when you live in LA, even if you have a bad day, you go outside and the day's not so bad anymore.
It's not really. It's just like it's the most beautiful place to live in the world. I tell you, you're not wrong about that. And the walks and the hikes and the food and the coffee.
Yeah. There's
What was
plenty of good things and
yeah.
beautiful things in life still.
So what I was going to ask you before, what's your favorite place in London to disappear for an afternoon? But now I'm going to say, what's your favorite place in LA to disappear for the afternoon?
Oh, well, there is I don't want to say where I'm always at because they're like,
Yeah, that
people
part.
will say no. There is a witch themed lesbian cafe that I've discovered that I love. And I love because we don't have a lot of like Mexican food in the UK.
Oh
I
my
love just like
gosh.
basic ass Mexican food, like just a tequilas with my friends. That was yeah, I love that. I'm always finding excuses.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
I'm curious though, what what has been like the most freeing part of coming to LA? Like what has been the most enjoyable part? I like because I know I used to live in Florida and
Mm.
I picked up my family and I now live in New York. And gosh, no one I people used to stare at me so often. And like I'm a basic ass white girl. Like I couldn't believe it. Here in New York, it's like anything goes. Anyone can
Hmm.
walk outside with anything on. No one blinks twice.
Hmm.
Everyone's just feels so inclusive. At least the
Hmm.
communities I go to and
Yeah.
surround myself with. So I'm curious, like the contrasting cultures. What has been like the most liberating for you being in LA coming from London?
Well, there's something that is, I'm not sure whether this is an LA thing or an American thing. There's something I like, which is that it's much more acceptable in the US to, if you like someone's outfit, a stranger to say, I like your outfit or
Yes,
I love your dress.
compliments. Yep.
That's just something that you would not ever do that in London.
No,
You would
why?
no way, no way. You would never,
No.
you just, people just don't, will not say that to you. Whereas I'll step outside in LA and people will say, I like your outfit. And the first couple of times it happened to me, I was like, what do you want from me? What are you doing?
Oh my
How, like, why are you speaking
God.
to me? And now I'm starting to get into it. And now I'll say it to a stranger, but like, I love your jacket or something, it'll be nice. Or like, your hair looks fabulous today. It's just more socially acceptable to say that. I'm finding that the English ice in my skin is slowly melting,
Melting. Oh,
which is
great.
which is nice. I mean, there's something which has been a fun challenge. It's been tough, but it's a good kind of tough, which is that the way that I was raised was to believe that if someone is suffering or is having trouble, the most compassionate thing that you can do, the most compassionate thing, is to ignore it. Because if you acknowledge that someone else is suffering, then you might embarrass them. And that is the worst thing you can do.
Mm.
And I'm learning, having come to the US, that that is not how you show compassion here. And that in some ways, I want to be a better friend to my American friends. And
Wow.
so I'm learning to notice that when they are in difficulty and to be okay if they notice that I am. Because
Mm.
if I'm sad or if I'm having trouble and an American friend of mine says to me, are you okay? In the past, I would have been very buttoned up and gone, of course I am. You
Mhm.
don't need to acknowledge that. We don't need to talk about that. And so this funny thing happened a few weeks ago. I was at a friend's house and she came through the living room and she was very clearly upset. She had been crying and was wrapped in a blanket and clearly hadn't eaten or really washed and was in a bad way. And I did the compassionate English thing, which was that I ignored it. I pretended she was completely invisible. And it started to pain me to do that.
Mhm.
And so I messaged her later and I sent her a voice note that was 3 minutes long because in America would just be like, hey, you okay?
Yeah.
Whereas the voice note I sent was so English because it was so verbally and syntactically complicated as I
Yeah.
built in all of these off ramps to be like, hello, I notice or seemed to notice earlier that you might be upset, and I apologize if I am incorrect in that, and I also apologize again if I am overstepping the bounds by noticing it if you were in fact. But if you were in fact upset, then that is something I would be keen to help you with, if that would be acceptable to you. And there were just it was like such
I'm
a you needed a
obsessed with
flow
you.
chart to
I'm
understand
fucking
it
obsessed with you. Yes.
because you absolutely cannot embarrass someone else, and to notice that someone else is in pain is to embarrass them. I even had an argument years ago. I was dating an American girl. We were walking along the streets in London, and we passed somebody was who was living on the street, who was clearly in a bad way. And we were on our way somewhere, and I said to my girlfriend, I'm sorry, excuse me. And I walked into the nearest supermarket, grocery store, and I bought some food and I put it in a bag and I just went back and I put it down next to that person and walked on. And my girlfriend at the time, American, said that was very kind and she wanted to remark on it. And I'm ashamed to say I spoke to her quite sternly and said, we're not going to talk about that. And I very much proceeded as if that had not happened at all. And we ended up having an argument about it. And that was when I realized that I had been raised in this mode of you do not acknowledge if someone else is suffering.
Wow.
Because to even look them in the eye would be to humiliate them. And in the same way that it would be embarrassing for someone else to notice your pain. And that was the night I really learned about that habit in myself and began the process of unlearning it and made the intention to let that ice melt. And so having since moved to the US and having American friends, it's nice to face that challenge.
That's so sweet, though.
To embrace the American way.
But I appreciate the vulnerability and the understanding that it is different. And I think that that's beautiful, and it tells me a lot about who you are and understanding. Like, I genuinely say this, and I have my partner who is a woman. I'm always, when I go to other cultures, I really try to research like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what would hurt other people's feelings, what wouldn't. And most people aren't like that, and I do find that compassion and understanding that I'm putting myself into someone else's culture and I need to come correct. So I appreciate that vulnerability and that willingness to just be like, okay, I'm not really fucking good at this and it's going to be 3 minutes long and it's going to be a voice note, but like, I'm going to get through it. And I just think that's why people find you so loving and charming and caring. And you're right. Empathy, compassion, all of these things, community. It's like, we need it. Yes.
Yeah, people can change.
Yeah, and it's moving.
Even the English can change.
I know, but giving people enough space and grace to do so, right? And no one knows that more than living life on the internet. Jesus, we are so cruel to each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I always like to close with this question, and the show's called Wide Open, clearly sports context, but more so just really diving into matters that go well beyond what we do. And I know what wide open means to me, but what does living wide open mean to you today? Because I'm sure so many people would like to hear that.
Well, something that I'm working on and that the stories I've just told are part of is trying to be a little more human. I think not only the way that I was raised, but also the way that we have to turn up as queer people in the public eye is that we're so often expected to be invincible superheroes and to project an image of strength and beauty and elegance at all times. And I'm learning to embrace my own humanity a little bit and to try to work less hard, to try to acknowledge when I'm unhappy, to allow my friends to notice it. And so I suppose that's what being wide open means to me. It's funny, somebody asked me a while ago, do you get nervous on a red carpet? Were you nervous at the red carpet for House of the Dragon? Because a big event and like photographers and so on. And I'm sure you've been at events like that where many people might expect us to feel pressured to look or be perfect. And I, without even thinking about it, I said, well, no, it's the only time I can relax because I don't have to be a human being. I can you become the symbol. You transform into She-Ra, and then it's for the honor of Grayskull, and then you don't have to be a human being. You can be a lightning bolt or a wave or a packet of photons.
Yes.
And there's a whole team who are going to be there, makeup artists and publicists, who will sand off all your humanity, and you become a kind of perfect collection of ones and zeros, and you don't have to have any internality at all. You're just a symbol, and it's great. And I said that without thinking about it, and reflected on how unhealthy that is, and how you can't live a life like that, or if you can, but it'll be a very lonely one. And so I suppose to me, wide open means trying to be more of a human being, which has been bred and trained out of me for years, and which I'm gradually learning with love and friends and therapy is no bad thing to be a person.
I love that. And I'm going to share, since you're getting me so deeply, it's just everything is so vulnerable. And thank you for sharing these things. And It's really interesting you said that because I'm reflecting on a memory as I'm dating an actor as well, who I feel that constantly is in the spotlight. I say this often. I'm surprised she's not chewing her hair in the fucking corner because it's just like has been famous for a very long time, and it's such a yuck word, but it's the reality of which she lives. And we went to a World Cup game recently, and I'm animated. I am a full-on athlete. I'm very passionate. I get very like when I'm telling stories and I'm like it's deeply personal to me. I'm very like, mentality of an athlete. And she gently looked over to me and said, "You have to be really careful with your like how you're expressing yourself because there'll be cameras on us and it'll be turned into a headline that we're fighting." To even think that way this is my space, truthfully. I have never once had to think about stripping myself down to be digestible for other people in that kind of way, that I would even fucking remotely think like that. And the fact that she does, the fact that you all in this industry have to think about these things, it really does strip you of like the most basic human experience, like at a soccer game. And sure fucking enough, on the internet the next day, there are cameras and photos of us in this box, and she knows. And I can't even, we're not, first of all, we never fight. She's the sweetest human in the world, but it's like, I can't even be animated in telling a story without the consequences that potentially could come from it. And you're right. It strips you of your human dignity, everything. Like who you are. You have to show up and you have to present. And you
and
have
the truly
Yeah.
the truly insidious thing is that it makes you want to be stripped of your humanity. And it's like, yes, good. Now I'm not vulnerable. Now I'm just invincible. And it's like, no, you can't live like that.
No.
No, you can't.
But
You must live wide open.
Yes. So I appreciate you saying that, and I get it, and I've seen it firsthand of what a lot of you go through, and it's really, really interesting. But I really appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty and coming on here, and I'm so excited to see more of your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Is there anything you want to say to the audience to promote anything? Do you know when anything's coming out? Because we all want to know.
My play, The Prince, which is about a bunch of Shakespeare characters realizing they're stuck inside a play and trying to break out and crashing through the Shakespeare multiverse as they go, is going to have a rehearsed reading on the 31st of July. That's this Friday at Dynasty Typewriter Theatre. It is going to be recorded, and the recording will be available through the Dynasty Typewriter website. So you'll be able to see me and some other fabulous actors doing some very silly romping around through Shakespeare. So yeah, that'll be the next thing. And there is more Philosophy Tube on the way. I'm writing an entire season of the show so that I can go back to the UK later this year and film it in block.
Well, we can't wait because we did look it up, and the last one was like 4 months ago. So not that we're waiting, but
It was.
we're waiting.
No, don't worry. I'll get on it.
Well, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you live out every sunshine in Los Angeles because you deserve it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, everyone. And that's the episode of this week. Thank you for tuning in to Wide Open. We'll see you next week. What I love so much about this conversation, as it really reminded me that becoming yourself isn't a single decision. It's a practice. It's asking hard questions, challenging the stories we've inherited, and having the courage to write new ones. Abigail, thank you for your honesty, your curiosity, and for making philosophy feel deeply human. And thank you all for listening. As always, if this conversation challenged you, inspired you, or simply made you think differently, share it with someone who needs it. We'll see you next time on Wide Open.